welcome back to another edition of Around the Association. I'm your host, Charles Fallon, back in here with another episode. And wow, there's a lot to talk about this week, to say the least. A ton went down at Ajax Super Speedway. You probably already know we have to talk about the elephant in the room and that entire race weekend. I certainly think there's a lot of reflecting the ASCA needs to do before we come back here for Speed Weeks next year because the product clearly wasn't up to par with what the fans wanted. So definitely we'll talk all about that. We'll break down that entire situation, especially the finish, Bob Halpert's subsequent firing. We'll talk about all of that. We also have to talk championship because Todd Kidd's right back in the mix now. He's only 3 points back due to the circumstances of how that finish played out. And with only 4 races to go, this title fight is heating up, to say the least. It is far from over, and Braden Bennett now has his hands full to take home his main title. We'll talk the Craftsman Series title fight as well. There's actually a fight this week between the title protagonists. Once again, another misstep by Bob Halpert. We'll talk about all of that. And also some silly season news as well. Huge news to drop. Revolution Racing, their rebrand kind of seems like an afterthought with everything that's gone on recently. But yeah, Jared Ayers just signed a 3-year, $21 million contract to drive for the team in 2027 and beyond. So huge news on that front. He gets his second chance in the ASCA. We'll break down that entire signing and we'll put this controversial weekend behind us and look forward to the final Crown Jewel weekend of 2026 at the Stone Yard. But first, before we get into it, we got to shout out the ASCA's merch shop. You already know, if you want to cop Todd Kidd gear, he's won the last 2 races back to back. I know people aren't happy about the way he won it, but he did just tie Jimmy Hood on the all-time wins list, so you can do that at the ASCA's merch shop. Click the top link in bio and use code season12 for 30% off at checkout. And we'll also shout out Circle B Diecast / Plan B sales. Use coupon code ASCA for reduced shipping on any orders of $30 or more inside the US. So without further ado, let's get into it. And like I said, I want to get the elephant out of the room first. Let's get the negativity out of the way and quite frankly talk about the unacceptable weekend that the ASCA put on at Ajax Super Speedway. Yeah, like I said, it was unacceptable from a multitude of fronts. And I think that a lot of people are going to be upset about the analytics, and I think that there's something the ASCA can do to curb that. I think that we'll talk about in just a second. I really don't have a problem with it from the analytics point of view. I think that it has its place, but I do think that teams need to recognize that it's not gospel. As Dorn Lester proved early in the race, that everyone was so scared to make a move because the analytics said, oh, there's only a 2% chance pass 2% chance to complete a pass. And Northwestern said, screw that. I'm going to try anyways. And he got some moves done, got some moves made, and really got the race kicked off on lap 19. But obviously, that's not the main talking point of what went down. We got to talk about the finish and the 5-lap rule. And this was a rule that was implemented back in 2021 for safety concerns. It's what the ASCA said at the time. They really did not want to take any chances trying to restart the race and put on a finish and jeopardize the driver's health. And I think the problem, the rule is good on the surface, but when you look at the way that Bob Halpert has officiated this season, his laissez-faire approach, especially when it comes to Caden Dunham and what he has allowed him to basically get away with down in the Craftsman level of the season, it really flies in the face of safety, quote unquote. And especially, I think, in a situation like this, with 5 laps to go, it's a single car spin on pit road you got to red flag that race. You have a sellout crowd in the stands. You've got ratings higher than ever on Instagram. Like, you have to red flag that race and provide the fans a green flag finish. There's no excuse. It's only if it was a massive accident, that'd be one thing. But it's a single car spin on the pit road. I get it. It's a damaged race car. I get that everyone's close on fuel, but you have to red flag that race if you're Bob Halpert. And he fumbled the bag there, and he's done that numerous times throughout the season. Like I said, this was not his only slip up, because I think if he only had this slip up, he would have probably have kept his job. But it's been a pattern with him. He's mishandled the Dunham situation, and in the past, he's gravely mishandled the Diego Orkedi situations, the Laquan Scranton situation, the Doug Bowden situation, Jared Ayers. He's let these aggressive drivers really walk all over him and bully their way to the front of the field and get themselves involved in a ton of needless incidents, a ton of needless controversy, tons of needlessly torn up race cars. Because he's been so scared to discipline and really put his foot down. And I think that what we saw at the end of last night's race was really the straw that broke the camel's back, rather than, oh, this was the only incident that really set it off. I'm like, no. Bob Halpert, I love the guy. He's been a longtime colleague. He's been working inside the sport for many years, but this was the final straw. I think that it's been well past time for him to go. I was critical of him on Twitter for the Craftsman race as well. And again, Caden Dunham getting into Gunnar Thorson, and he finally decided to put his foot down, but he only put Dunham and Thorson on probation. Like, you've given warnings to Dunham, and you've let the drivers handle it, and you've done everything except put your foot down. This kid does not care. Kanan Dunham does not care about probation. He doesn't care about the warnings. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And like, the best way to, get him back in check is to suspend him, dock him points, do something. And Halpert just has not done that. And it's just, like I said, he completely botched the handling of that situation, so much so that a level-headed guy like Gunnar Thorson was driven to the point of swinging at Dunham to get his point across. Like, hey, you cannot keep wrecking me. I'm not going to keep allowing you to do this. And it shouldn't come to drivers having to fight each other to stand up for, not being taken out on a weekly basis. That should be the ASCA's job. And yeah, he fumbled the bag there. And then, like I said, the entire finish controversy, you look at who was out front. There's already been this golden boy narrative surrounding Todd Kidd for many years. This narrative that Ronnie Woods Motorsports cheats for many years. And you just let them waltz to a 1-2-3 finish, another win for Kidd, especially this late in the title fight. That 9-team building so much momentum right now. You just allow them to waltz that victory basically uncontested. It's just not a good look. And the fans who watched on Instagram on Saturday night, they deserve better. The fans that paid to see the race, they deserve better in the grandstands. And yeah, it's just unacceptable for Bob Halpert. And yeah, definitely the right decision for the sanctioning body to relieve him of his duties. So who they replace him with, we're going to probably find out within the next couple of days. It's going to be critical that they get this right, though, because we have two really good championship fights, and we cannot allow them to be ruined by laissez-faire race directing. Like Halpert's willing to go by the book in the 5 laps to go instance, but when it comes to penalizing Caden Dunham for his reckless driving, he doesn't want to touch him. So it's just, they pick and choose their spots too much, and they're way too inconsistent. So Halpert had to go. And like I said, sanctioning body has to get this right. We've got two really good championship fights right now. We really don't need them ruined by poor race directing that we've seen for now the past month and a half or so. So that's it for the Halpert firing. Like I said, it's completely justified. But this hate on analytics is something I don't get. And I think that it actually kind of stems from the change that um, the ASCA made in the off season with the new regulations and the composite bodies to neuter the effects of side drafting. I think that's why analytics have become so prevalent, especially at the cup level, because they were used in the Craftsman series, but those guys were still 2 and 3 wide. They were still dicing it up. But at the cup level, without the side draft really being an option, you have to have help, basically. You have to have help, which means you have to have teammates or at least someone from the same manufacturer behind you. And that's how Ronnie Woods Motorsports were able to dominate the race like they did, because they were organized the entire night, and the rest of the field just wasn't. And the analytics told the rest of the field not to attack because you'd be sent straight to the back. And with everyone being so risk averse, everyone being told to wait until the end of the race to push, that it just contributed and snowballed to one of the worst pulled races. It actually is the worst pulled race in ASCA history. For that is blank a good race pull. Like, that is by far the worst, and it's not even close. So I actually think that the analytics problem, I don't think that they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. Like, I think that they have their place, but it also comes down to the side drafting aspect being taken away. Like, that is a major tool that was stripped out of the driver's hand, and they've had to compensate with the analytics. I think that you give the ASCA's best the data science plus the side drafting. I think that we could see a really good 2027 Ajax 200 and a really good 2027 Speed Weeks, because guys are going to be much more willing to go for it, because the side drafting is such a major tool to level the playing field and overcome any sort of teammates working together and that sort of thing. And when guys know that they have a much bigger chance of making it to the front on their own, the analytics aren't gonna, tell everyone to be so conservative and laid back and so content to just ride around. So I think that, like I said, the ASCA needs to take a long look in the mirror from this race weekend. There's a lot that they can learn from. Not many positives per se, but a lot that they can learn from. Definitely the 5-lap rule needs some adjustments. There has to be some sort of balance there. They can't not at least try to put on a green flag finish, because what we saw on track was pathetic. They can't do that. The analytics, I think that those can be neutered if you add the side drafting back to the plate package. Yeah, and getting the race director right. They need to find someone who's not going to be afraid to put their foot down and ruffle feathers. So we can have some fair championship fights in these final 4 races and the final month of the campaign. So that's that. We're gonna basically kind of put this Ajax Super Speedway weekend in the review, and for good reason. This is not going to be a race weekend that hopefully we talk about much moving forward, and it's a shame because it had potential, but there's clearly a lot that needs to change, because you cannot open the 2027 season like this. You cannot do that. So, like I said, wholesale changes need to come to plate racing next season, and that's something that will be discussed more in the off season and as we get closer to Speed Weeks in next year. But let's talk about the race result itself. And Todd Kidd, you want to call it a Mickey win or whatever you want to call it, fine, completely justifiable. But a win is a win, and it's going to go down in the rule book as a win. And he's now won back-to-back races. He just tied his ex-teammate Jimmy Hood atop the all-time wins list. He's only 3 points back of Braden Bennett for the championship with 4 races to go. He is a defending champion after all. Is this his title to lose? It's now 4 straight top 3 finishes for Todd Kidd as well. Like, he has been on a tear as of late since the turn of the West Coast swing. And he also, I believe, has 10 top 10 finishes in the last 11 races. Again, like I said, he's been on a tear recently. And is this his title to lose? I think it very much is at this point. And it's not that Braden Bennett's been bad or anything. He's been solid, but he's going to have to elevate his level of performance to something that we've never seen out of him before. Let's face it, we've only seen him in one true title fight in his ASCA career, and he blew it. It was against Ross Jackson and Carson Schmidt his rookie season in the Craftsman Series, and he had an opportunity to take that championship, and he blew it. Now, granted, again, he was a Craftsman Series rookie at the time. He's got much more experience now. He certainly developed a ton from that point and elevated himself to the upper echelon of Cup Series drivers. But Michael White Racing and those guys are on the back foot. Ronnie Woods Motorsports, they are red hot right now. They've won 5 of the last 7 races. Michael White Racing, they got off to the fast start and everything, but they got to keep developing. They got to keep pushing, and they have to respond. And I think that this weekend's Northern 200 is going to be critical for their title chances. If Kidd wins again, or if he takes the points lead, I think it's over. I think it's over if Kidd wins or takes the points lead. If Bennett can respond, though, finish ahead of Kidd, keep the points lead, I think that he's got a shot down the stretch, because Computer Motor Speedway, that was the one time that Kidd finished outside the top 10 in his last 11 races. He was not very good there that night. He was back half of the top 10 and then got out of the groove on the final restart, slipped back to 12. So that could be a huge opportunity for Bennett to respond. West Virginia, Kidd was mad there, but we've seen Ronnie Woods Motorsports have definitely improved their high-speed, aero-sensitive track program to, we've seen what Chris Barrymore has been able to do. We saw Shane Park mix it up inside the top 5 as well. Those guys are definitely going to be a factor in that race. It's going to be Toyota 1, 2, 3 like it was in the Windows 300. I definitely think that Ronnie Woods Motorsports will have an answer for that race. And then Belltown. That's going to be something, because we saw last year Bennett was able to outduel Kidd. Will he be able to do it again? Mind you, Bennett was also in inferior equipment at the time. Michael White Racing were fully focused on 2026. By that point, Ronnie Woods Motorsports were putting it all in this year, and Bennett passed Kidd for the lead on merit, drove off, left him, and won the race. So I think that Bennett's going to have to win at least once down the stretch, maybe a couple times, because Todd Kidd, I think, is definitely going to win again in these final 4 races. Like, he has rattled off 4 straight top 3 finishes. He's been red hot as of late, just coming off leading, 56 laps at Ajax Super Speedway. More laps than he had led all season up to that point. So yeah, I think that Michael White Racing, they got to get in the lab, get in the simulator, see what they're doing wrong. They are the defending winner at the Soneyard, but we'll see if they can respond, heading into a critical 11th annual Northern 200. And again, we're going to break that down more towards the end of the episode. And I will say, don't count out Shane Park. He's sitting 14 points back right now. If Kidd and Bennett were to get into it, if they were to come together and take each other out of the race, Shane Park could very well steal this championship. And boy, would it be something if he did. considering he was 15th in points. He looked dead in the water, but that Michigan doubleheader weekend got him right back in the fight. And now here he is, third in points. I'm telling you, man, the cream, they always rise back to the top. And boy, this title fight, I mean, these final 4 weeks, again, get us a competent race director, ASCA, because we really, really, really want to see this title fight without any interference, any incompetent officiating. Like, this is getting really good down the stretch. So let's first touch on the Orkedi Bros Racing drama that really slipped under the radar with all the chaos and calamity going on Saturday night. People kind of forgot that this happened, but Diego Orkedi and Carson Schmidt got together in practice. Schmidt sent Diego into the corner. Diego ended up in the outside wall. Heavy contact, had to go to a backup car. Yeah, so that was four-time champion having to start from the rear of the field. So, yeah, Orkedi obviously was none too pleased. He declined to go to the team meeting the following day. He didn't show up. He called out Schmidt on social media, aired him out on Twitter, saying this is why he wishes the team would have gotten Dunham. Schmidt was tired walking on eggshells around Orkedi. These two are basically at odds right now. And Carson Schmidt was in negotiations with Orkedi Bros Racing on a long-term deal. I'm told those have halted as well. This is getting ugly for the sport's most iconic dynasty. And I think that we're starting to see why Nick Orkedi was the only constant at Orkedi Bros Racing for the past decade or so. Why there's always been a revolving door and that third seat at the team. And this is interesting because obviously Nick is retired now. So Diego's not going to be able to work with just his older brother anymore. He's going to have to figure out how to get along with these young guys like Schmidt and Darty. But obviously, I think he's ticked Schmidt off enough to where he's fed up with it. He's done. And to be fair, I don't blame him. I don't blame Diego either for being upset. Obviously, it's been an extremely rough week for him. His wife announced that she'd be filing for divorce the day prior to the incident taking place. He's having a terrible season right now, his worst in over a decade, still winless on the campaign. I get why he's upset, but my guy, it was an accident and it was in practice as well. It's not like it was in the race. Diego was able to recover and bring home a top 10 finish. Like, they had a team meeting reportedly on Monday to kind of smooth things out for the rest of the season. But I think Schmidt is all but gone. He is fed up. He's tired of being there. He's tired of having to basically get on his knees and please Diego. Pause. But you get what I'm trying to say here. Like, he's tired of having to basically play second fiddle and cater to Diego's every last win. Like, he did that last year. And he's ahead of Diego in points this season. He's outperformed Diego all season. I think it's very safe to say Schmidt has been the best driver on that team all year. So yeah, he shouldn't have to, go to these lengths to try to please Diego. And I don't blame him at all for wanting out, especially with how silly season is developing right now. We don't know. There might be a couple open seats at Ronnie Wood's Motorsports. Cameron Atwood looks like he's going to be wanting out of CJ Barrymore Racing. What's going to happen there? St. Paul Racing is joining the grid in 2028. I'm telling you, I'm already circling next year's silly season as being pure unadulterated chaos. Like, it is going to be nuts with the amount of big name drivers. Like, we've already got Atwood looking like he is 1 foot out the door at CJ Barrymore Racing. Now we've got Schmidt looking like he's going to be out of Orkedi Bros Racing. So yeah, very, very interesting to see how that entire situation develops. But I think Schmidt's done. I think he's over it. He's over having to kowtow to Diego's every last whim. He's done. So Yeah, that is going to definitely be an interesting contract situation to kind of see how it plays out for that team. Because I don't think I think there's no way that either party, the team or the driver, can continue once Schmidt's contract is up at the end of 2027. So let's talk Craftsman Series now. Obviously, we know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Caden Dunham versus Gunnar Thorson, the last lap crash. Should the ASCA step in? Obviously, the answer is yes. It's incredible that it took them this long to step in and finally give both of these guys probation. It took them basically swinging on each other for that to happen. And again, this is why Bob Halpert was just axed. He did a terrible job managing this entire situation. And but I do hope that the new race director lays down expectations with these guys that, hey, let's calm it down. Look, we're tired of seeing you guys. You're not racing each other. You're just fencing each other. The second you get anywhere near each other, you're just putting each other in the fence. And that's where it seemed like the Orkedi Kidd title fight was inching towards last season. Luckily, it didn't get to that point, but it was getting close to that towards the end of the season. But we did see a great battle from them in the Northern 200, um, which was pretty cool to see. But yeah, so yeah, the ASA should clearly step into this and lay down expectations because you got to remember these two guys are kids. They're both teenagers, right? They're both young. They're only in their first and second full time season in the sport. Let's be honest, in the grand scheme of things, they have no idea what they're doing. So, they need to be kind of sat down. And this is basically the first true title fight for both of them as well. So it's basically one of those situations where cooler heads need to prevail. The big wigs at the top of the sport need to step in and lay down the expectations that, hey, fighting on track, that's not okay. Putting each other in the fence, that's not okay. Wrecking each other, that's not okay. Let's cut the BS. Let's settle this on track like men and just go mano y mano these final 3 weeks. Because if they keep wrecking each other, hey, Matt Chamberlain, Tony Del Valle II, they're not going to be too mad about that because they could seal this title. But we don't want to see that. These two have clearly been the best in the Craftsman Series all season. Let's settle this fair and square these final 3 races. With the Stone Yard, you've got San Diego, and then you've got Belltown. Like, it's okay to get physical at San Diego and Belltown, but I don't want to see either of these guys fencing each other at the Stone Yard. I want to see them racing the track, not trying to race each other and wreck each other, basically. So let's talk silly season. This episode, I believe, is probably running along at this point, but yeah, Revolution Racing. They have completely rebranded. Gone are the days of the number 47. They've now renumbered that card to the number 99. They brought in a veteran driver in Jared Ayers. They signed a now somewhat veteran crew chief, somewhat seasoned, Sam Rosberg, the former Diego Orkidi crew chief, fired by the team just over halfway through the season. I really, really like the direction that Revolution went with this hire. And it's a questionable move to pick Ayers, but they definitely needed to bring in a veteran option. And since they couldn't get Sam Baird, they couldn't get Ryan Dixon, Jared Ayers was the best option available. And let's not let's not try to sugarcoat it here. Ayers has been absolutely awful the past 2 seasons. There is absolutely a chance that the man is completely washed. I won't deny that in the slightest. But I think it's worth taking that shot in the dark rather than either running it back with Toby Beckett, who is awful. We just saw how bad he was in the Fastenal 200, bringing out the first caution of the day, or trying to pluck another one of these mediocre Craftsman Series rookies because that's the only guys that your team can convince to come over you. Like, you're not going to get any of the big name Craftsman guys to join this middling organization. it's best to get a veteran driver like Ayers, who's down on his luck, who's got a point to prove. Clearly, with the way that his divorce at Michael White Racing is going, he's been bailing it in like since race 4 of the season. He's not happy there. He wants to stick it back to him. So you bring him in, you bring in finally some stability. He's on a 3-year deal, $21 million. You had to pay a lot to get him, a lot more than I would have liked. But it does show a commitment by the team that, hey, we want to improve and we're going to pay whatever it takes to bring Ayers in and get him on the team. And I like that from team owner Jason Cade. He paid the money. He offered Ayers a blank check, and he got his guy. It's not the guy he wanted. He wanted Sam Bear, but he offered Sam Bear a blank check. He said no. He offered Dixon a blank check. He said no. He came to Ayers and offered him a blank check, and he said yes. So at least he does get a veteran option, and they're trying to improve. I can't fault the team for trying to get better. And this move, you cannot deny, while Beckett finished ahead of him at Denver, you can't deny that Jared Ayers is overall a better driver than Toby Beckett. Much more experience. He has 2 Cup wins. He did outduel Randall Woods to win his second Cup race, which was the 100th modern era Cup Series event at the streets of Computerville. Like, Ayers has talent. On his day, he's proven he can win races. He can lead laps. We'll just see if he can turn his career around or whether or not he's just completely washed at this point. So, yeah, that's up to the team to find out over the course of the next 3 years. But for once, I actually feel some optimism around Revolution Racing, and the rebrand was a really nice touch to kind of reset, regroup, and retry next season to chase the ultimate prize, which is a Cup Series championship that they've been nowhere close to throughout their entire existence thus far. But let's preview the Northern 200. We already talked about this briefly in terms of the Cup side of things, but we're going to preview the full race weekend and break it all down. Let's talk Craftsman Series first, because they also race with the Lilly Diabetes 100. We talked about it again, Kaden Dunham versus Gunnar Thorson. And the interesting part is Dunham's never raced here before. Thorson raced here last year. He was really fast, but had a pit penalty late. He still finished 9th, higher than any of the title contenders last season. So that proves that he has speed here, and he knows how to navigate this place somewhat. Dunham has no idea how to drive this place, and it really doesn't suit his driving style at all. Now, granted, he did a great job at Orlando managing his tires, managing his equipment, absolutely smoked the field that night. But the Stoneyard is an entirely different beast. This is easily going to be the toughest track he's driven on all season. And again, like tire management, he did it well at Orlando, but the Stoneyard, again, this is an entirely new challenge to him. He's never had to face anything close to this in his ASCA career. He would have had that opportunity at the Streets Computerville. I mean, not the Streets Computerville, Computer Motor Speedway, but obviously that was repaved. So he didn't really get that opportunity. And that's what concerns me. Like, I think that this is a huge opportunity for Gunnar Thorson to take advantage of the championship, because I've got a feeling as long as Dunham isn't on anything crazy, as long as he doesn't push his luck, I have a feeling that he's going to burn up his stuff really quickly, and Thorson's going to be able to pounce and really make up some ground. And with 2 more races to go after this week, the title fight's far from over. I just want to see these two go at it and not put each other in the wall. Just fair and square, hard, clean racing. That's what we want to see, man, for this championship, because these two, they're the future of the sport. They're going to the Cup Series next season. They're going to be racing each other for the next 10 to 15 years. Let's get a preview of that, but let's get a preview of it the right way. And but overall, it's going to be a Cup Elites Fest. It's also important to preface that as well, because you've got Doug Bowden, you've got Brian Bennett, you got Cameron Atwood, and you've got, I believe, Chris Barrymore. Yeah, Chris Barrymore's in the 16th. So yeah, a Craftsman regular is not going to win this race. I think you can write that in stone. and I will be stunned if one actually does. Um, with all these Cup guys entered in the show, they're going to have their work cut out for him, to say the least. So that's going to be extremely tough on their end. But yeah, I think overall my pick is probably Barrymore. He's obviously so dominant here. He's got a point to prove. Definitely, I think I've got Barrymore taking home the checkered flag in the Craftsman race. And then in the Cup race, I think he's also got to be a big favorite as well. Cameron Atwood, this is a huge opportunity for Ford and the Northern 200 to finally snap their drought. I can't believe they still haven't won. We're 13 races into the season. They still have not won a race this season. That's nuts. They're going to win eventually. I think that you got to look at Atwood. You clearly got to look at Diego Orkedi, the 4-time champion, the 6-time Stoneyard winner. He's got to win eventually. You got to look at Carson Schmidt, who nearly won this race in 2024. That was almost his first career win before, well, Burn Renard happened in the closing laps. I think you definitely got to circle him as well for Ford guys who have a chance to compete. But we talked about it from the Kidd in the Bennett aspect. It's also a big chance for Shane Park. He's not out of it. 14 points back. He can continue to nibble into that gap. He's won at the Stoneyard before. It's the only oval track he's ever won at in his Cup Series career. If he can win again, oh boy, Park is slowly but surely inching his way into the title fight. And just like Kidd, he's getting hot at the right time. Colin Ward, not completely out of it, but he's going to need a win. He needs a big result for sure. He cannot afford any more bad races. So I think it might be close to time to writing him off. And in terms of their other Ronnie Woods Motorsports teammate, also can't count out Chris Barrymore. I think he's definitely going to be a factor as well. But it's also the final crown jewel starts for Randall Woods and Norm Lester. The final Stoneyard start for Sean Wooden. It's going to be an emotional weekend in that aspect. And Randall Woods trying to snap a winless drought. The Northern 200 is known for snapping winless droughts over the years, but I think I've actually got Todd Kidd going 3 in a row. He's been unstoppable these past 4 weeks on a tear, 4 straight top 3 finishes, back-to-back wins. I don't think anyone can stop the defending champion right now other than himself. And that includes Braden Bennett. I think that he's on the back foot right now. And I don't know if he has what it takes to stop these guys. I don't know if he or Michael Y. Racing can respond to Kidd and Ronnie Woods Motorsports' recent advances. So I've got Chris Barrymore winning the Craftsman race. I've got Todd Kidd winning the Cup one. And that's a wrap for this edition of Around the Association. I'm your host, Charles Fallon. Hopefully we can get a new race director that'll finally get things corrected. And we can put last week in the review. This week, hopefully going to be much less controversial, much more just good, hard racing. And we'll see you in a week's time.